House prices didn't collapse. They didn't melt down. They didn't even make much noise. They just stopped. And that's the bit most people aren't clocking. Because when growth hits near zero, the market doesn't crash. It freezes. That's not drama. That's mechanics. On paper, everything still looks fine. Homes still list. Agents still smile. Banks still lend. But in reality, buyers are waiting. And when buyers are waiting, the market quietly stalls. On the 8th of January, 2026, Halifax released its latest house price index. And buried in the numbers was a line that should make anyone paying attention pause. The typical UK home now costs £297,755. That's the lowest level since June 2025. Prices fell 0.6% in December, after a small dip in November. 2 months down. Not dramatic. But not nothing either. And annual growth? Just 0.3%. That's not growth in any meaningful sense. That's a rounding error. Growth hits zero. Buyers are waiting. Market quietly stalls. Because this isn't about a crash. It's about confidence draining out of the system, slowly, almost politely. And once confidence goes, the math starts to wobble. Here's what most people miss. In housing, flat is dangerous. When prices are rising clearly, behaviour is predictable. Buyers rush. Sellers feel confident. Chains form. But when prices stop moving, everything changes. A figure like 0.3% annual growth tells buyers one thing. There's no rush, mate. Why stretch yourself now if prices aren't running away? Why max out your affordability if waiting might get you a better deal? So people sit tight. And that's where liquidity starts drying up. Liquidity isn't about cash. It's about movement. Can you sell quickly? Can you complete without drama? Can you rely on the chain holding together? When buyers wait, liquidity vanishes. Properties linger. Offers soften. Under offer turns into back on the market. This isn't loud. It's awkward. Reuters pointed out that economists were expecting annual growth closer to 1.1%. The market missed that. And misses matter, not because they're catastrophic, but because they change the story people tell themselves. The narrative quietly shifts from "it's stabilizing" to "something's not quite right here." And once that thought settles in, the market behaves differently. This is where the freeze begins. Now here's the bit that really messes with confidence. London. According to Reuters' coverage of the Halifax data, London prices are down about 1.3% year-on-year. Meanwhile, Northern Ireland is up roughly 7.5%. That split isn't random. It tells you exactly where the pressure is tightest. London is where affordability snaps first. Always has been. Bigger loans. Bigger deposits. Bigger risk. So when London goes soft, it sends a message, even if people don't say it out loud. Because London isn't just another region. It's psychological. For years, the UK housing market has leaned on the idea that London props everything else up. When that stops being true, even temporarily, confidence wobbles everywhere. Estate agents feel it. Surveyors feel it. Buyers definitely feel it. You start hearing things like, "Let's just wait a bit. Prices might come down. No harm in seeing what happens." That's not panic. That's hesitation. And hesitation is lethal for a market built on momentum. This is why your thumbnail saying "London turns negative" matters. Because when London hesitates, the rest of the country starts doubting the old assumptions. Rates are down. So why isn't anyone moving? On paper, this should be the recovery moment. The Bank of England cut interest rates to 3.75% in December. Major lenders like HSBC have already started trimming mortgage rates. So why doesn't the market spring back? Because rate cuts don't automatically create confidence. Sometimes they do the opposite. They remind people that something's wrong. Buyers don't just ask, "What's the rate today?" They ask, "What will it be next year? What about my job? What happens when my fix ends?" And the Bank of England has been very clear about one thing. Future cuts are not guaranteed. The vote was tight. The language cautious. The message restrained. That uncertainty filters straight into buyer psychology. People don't take on massive debt when they are unsure which way the wind's blowing, even if the headline rate looks better. So instead of rushing back in, buyers wait. And that's why rates easing hasn't unfrozen the market. Because housing isn't just priced on interest rates. It's priced on trust. Trust in income. Trust in stability. Trust that moving won't blow up your finances. Right now, that trust is thin. According to the Bank of England's money and credit data, mortgage approvals for new purchases fell to 64,500. But approvals for remortgaging rose to 36,600. That tells a story. People aren't buying. They're resetting. And resets are where stress hides. Thousands of households are rolling off ultra-cheap mortgage deals from the old era. Deals that started at 1%. Sometimes less. Now they're facing something very different. Even with recent rate cuts, many refinancers are jumping to 4 or 5%. That's a massive shift in monthly payments. So while house prices are drifting gently, household budgets are taking a punch. This is why the market can look stable on paper while people feel squeezed in real life. Because the pain isn't in prices. It's in payments. And when payments hurt, behavior changes. People don't upgrade. They don't move for lifestyle reasons. They don't take risks. They sit tight. And when enough people sit tight, the market quietly grinds down. This is where the system starts to strain, not explosively, but structurally. This kind of slowdown doesn't hit everyone at once. It moves in layers. First-time buyers feel it as indecision. Yes, affordability has improved slightly. But near-zero growth kills urgency. If prices aren't running away, why rush? Why overpay? Why stretch yourself now? So they wait. Existing homeowners feel it through broken chains. Selling takes longer. Buying becomes riskier. The whole move feels heavier. So they pause. Renters don't see instant relief. Rents aren't driven by Halifax numbers. They're driven by supply shortages and landlord decisions. So frustration builds there too. Builders respond quietly. They don't stop building overnight. They slow releases. They add incentives. They manage risk. And banks watch all of this carefully. Fewer purchase loans. More refinancing. More scrutiny. Because banks don't fear falling prices first. They fear uncertainty. This is why the market doesn't collapse when growth hits zero. It stiffens. And stiff systems crack more easily later on. This is not 2008, but it rhymes. Let's be clear. This is not 2008. There's no banking panic. No credit freeze. No sudden collapse. But there are echoes. In 2008, confidence vanished quickly. This time, it's leaking out slowly. The key difference? Back then, credit disappeared overnight. Now, credit still exists, but demand is weakening. And that's dangerous in a different way. Because slowdowns stretch out pain. They grind households down quietly. They keep prices sticky while costs rise. They create frustration, not fear. And frustration lasts longer. This feels less like a crash, and more like a long, awkward reset. So where does that leave us? Right now, the UK housing market isn't collapsing. But it is changing. Halifax shows 2 monthly declines. Annual growth has slowed to 0.3%. London is slipping while other regions diverge. Rates have eased, but confidence hasn't returned. Remortgaging is rising. Purchasing is slowing. This is not the end of the story. But it may be the point where people realize the rules have shifted. Because when buyers are waiting, the market doesn't roar. It whispers. And those whispers tell you more than any crash headline ever could. If you're watching from the UK, drop a comment. Are homes actually selling where you live? Or are they just sitting there, slightly reduced, waiting for someone to blink? And if you want calm, evidence-based breakdowns of what's really happening beneath the headlines, consider subscribing. Because this market isn't finished. But it's definitely not the same one we used to know.